My Lord and my God, I firmly believe that you are here, that you see me, that you hear me. I adore you with profound reverence. I ask you for pardon of my sins and grace to make this time of prayer fruitful. My Mother Immaculate, Saint Joseph, my Father and Lord, my guardian angel, intercede for me. In today's Gospel from St. Mark, we find Jesus calling the people to himself and saying to them, "Listen to me, all you, and understand nothing that goes into a man from outside can make him unclean. It is the things that come out of a man that makes him unclean. If anyone has ears to hear, let him listen to this." Well, this is something that we might find hard to understand now because it is very linked to the ideas of ritual impurity, which were very important in the ancient world, where people really felt that they were made unclean by touching something what we call ritually impure, such as eating food that you shouldn't eat, or stepping on an unmarked grave, or touching a corpse. And whenever that happened, the person had to purify themselves afterwards, normally by washing, immersing themselves in water, or washing their clothes, or even shaving their hair, other things like that. So these were the purification rituals. And Jesus, you know that there's a kind of big problem here, in fact. And the big problem is that with these ritual conceptions of good and evil, they were really feeling that evil was something that always came from outside of me. I was never responsible for. In a certain sense, somebody else or some accident was always responsible for evil and for sin, and that I could somehow manage to wash it off. That is not just something that belongs to the ancients. Remember Shakespeare's Lady Macbeth, after her involvement in the murder of King Duncan, how she sleepwalks in her chamber, rubbing her hands and lamenting, saying, "Will these hands never be clean?" And she laments, all the perfumes of Arabia will not sweeten this little hand. Poor Lady Macbeth. And so you, Lord, want to correct them and also us from this error, because we too can kind of fall into something similar. And maybe even it happens with, for example, our obsession sometimes, giving excessive importance to the way we eat, what we eat and drink, thinking that if I eat really healthy food, drink only purified water, avoid high-fat yogurts, well then somehow I am a better, more pure person. Now, that's obviously when we take it to extremes. But there could be something of that, that I'm very obsessed about these things, because I think by doing all those things about what I eat and drink and being hyper healthy, somehow that goes right into my heart and transforms me as a person. Well, Jesus points out to us that it doesn't actually. What he says in the gospel is, do you not understand either? Can you not see that whatever goes into a man from outside cannot make him unclean, because it does not go into his heart, but through his stomach, and passes out into the sewer. Thus he pronounced all foods clean. So in the same way, we could say that, our low-fat yogurt, our purified water, well, it might be good for our health, but it doesn't penetrate right into our heart, and it doesn't make me clean as a person, healthy as a human being, maybe healthy in a healthy body, but transform me. Because what our Lord is talking about is something much more mysterious, something far, far beyond our appearances, our physical body, our qualities, the very core, we use the word heart, the very core of me. And so, again, Lord, you go on in the gospel saying, it is what comes out of a man that makes him unclean. For it is from within, from men's hearts, that evil intentions emerge. Fornication, theft, murder, adultery, avarice, malice, deceit, indecency, envy, slander, pride, folly. All these things come from within and make a man unclean. So we see what our Lord is saying to us, how important our heart is. Good and evil only live at the level of our hearts, not at the level of external things, of our appearances, of our eating habits. They're not really, they're kind of much more superficial. Not that they are not important, but they're much more superficial. But you and I can be very caught up in the externals. Sometimes we only give importance to the external things, and we give them over excessive importance. Remember even the prophet Samuel. We had it recently in the first reading a week or two ago in Mass, when he goes looking for a king to replace King Saul, and he is instructed to go to the house of David's father, and he begins to examine the sons. These 7 sons who are really a very impressive bunch of young men. And when the first of them arrives there, Eliab, and Samuel sees him, this big, tall, strapping guy, and Samuel thinks to himself, surely the Lord's anointed stands here before the Lord. And God corrects him with some kind of locution in his soul. And the Lord said to Samuel, do not consider his appearance or his height, for I have rejected him. The Lord does not look at things man looks at. Man looks at the outward appearance, but the Lord looks at the heart. That's so important for us. The Lord looks at the heart. Or the way some saints have put it, God only sees your heart. That's all, really, in the end of the day, that's all that matters. Your heart. All the other things are externals, well, more or less important, but the core, the only thing that matters, you could say, for all eternity, is your heart. And God only looks at your heart. Not how tall you are, not how impressive you are, not how slim you are, none of those things, your very heart. You and I, we have this incredible habit of judging by appearances, by the outside, by status, by looks, by all these kind of things. There's a lovely story told about a saint that I love, Pope Pius X. He was Pope at the beginning of the 20th century. And at one stage, well, generally, when he was in the Vatican, he loved to chat to the gardeners. And he would talk to them about their flowers and how they were coming on and so on. And a real friendly chat with the gardeners in the Vatican gardens. And at one stage, some official in the Vatican, because they thought this was kind of unseemly that the Pope would be caught talking to the gardeners, they kind of corrected him and said, Your Holiness, it is unseemly that the Pope would be talking to the gardeners. And of course, St. Pius X dismissed this as just so much rubbish. And he said to them, who will be higher in heaven? Me or the gardeners? Nobody knows. And it's true. And even, there may be some of those gardeners, even above the great St. Pius X in heaven. So what Pius X was saying to them was very important, was what God says to Samuel and that our Lord says to us in today's gospel. The Lord looks at the heart, not whether you're a pope or a gardener, not whether you're super slim or otherwise, not whether you got this status or that status. God looks at the heart. We could finish asking our Lord to give us an increased capacity to judge, not to judge at all in a sense, because we cannot see the heart, because we see only outward appearances. And so you could say rather to suspend judgment. We can judge nobody on earth, not even ourselves actually, because only God looks at the heart and only God can see the heart. Only God really knows how the heart is. But we could ask for that help. Lord, help me to realize that, not to judge by outward appearances. Nobody, not even myself. Let's ask Our Lady, who also would have that tremendous sense of the worth of every single person deep, deep in their heart, for that capacity. Our Lady, help me to be like God, trying to see the heart beyond the outward appearances. I give thanks, my God, for the good resolutions, affections, and inspirations you have communicated to me in this meditation. I ask you for help to put them into effect. My Mother Immaculate, Saint Joseph, my Father and Lord, my guardian angel, intercede for me.